Hi chess kids, Fun Master Mike is back. What's that? Some chess parents are also listening in? Go find your own YouTube channel, parents. This one's for the chess kids. Today, we are going to become pin masters. It's all about the most popular tactic in chess, the pin. But first, I need your help, chess kids. Let's workshop the title. Should we call this Pin Masters, as I just said? How about Pin Power? Pin to win? What's that you say? Pintastic? Love it. Take one more suggestion. Pinsanity? I don't know who suggested it, but let's go with that one. Today's video is Pinsanity. We are going to become Pin Masters. As I said, it is the world's most popular tactic. What do I mean by that? You're almost certainly going to have at least one pin per game. Now, is pin actually the most? Did I do a data deep dive? Well, no, but it's just like I presume that vanilla is the most popular ice cream and pizza is the most popular food. I don't have data, I just feel it in my bones. Okay, now, in this particular position, it's going to be white to move. However, let's just pretend for a second that it was black to move. Can you figure out the white piece that is being pinned? That means a piece can't move because the piece behind it would be in danger, and that would be Mr. Knight. Poor Mr. Knight. If that knight moves, the king would be in danger. And in fact, black already has a double attack on the knight because the bishop and the queen are working together to aim at the knight. Now, we're going to talk about a lot more concepts revolving around the pin as we come up. But instead of just sitting there and teaching you, let's jump into the puzzles, and I'm going to teach as we go. That's some kind of like newfangled educational concept. Okay, it's actually white to move, and white has to somehow take advantage of a pin. Now, to be honest with you, I don't see a pin on move one. This is a really tough puzzle to get going. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to create a pin on move one to be able to take advantage of it on move two. So, with all that being said, you might think a move like bishop c4 pins the pawn to the king. You are technically true. However, that move is not pintastic because, well, black could actually just take your knight with check and the queen is safe, or black might just take your queen, and honestly, that's a better move. By the way, that pawn couldn't move anyway because the knight was in the way, so it was kind of already, blocked, pinned, immobile. So I'm going to just give you this first one because it's a tough one. It's a doozy. Our computer's not playing nice today. We're going to play queen to d8 check. As with many chess tactics, looking for checks and captures is often the way to go. Now, I believe the black king will move to h7. Let's see if he does. Oh, he didn't, which is kind of annoying. So that means I'm going to have to draw some arrows. Okay, first of all, we are just going to capture this knight. I just want to let you know. And by the way, that knight is actually pinned. If the knight were to move, the king would be in check. Okay. However, if you could imagine in your brain, or even if you just follow my arrows, and imagine that the king moves to h7, then look at this beautiful diagonal. The black queen and the black king would be on the same line, a diagonal line. Which pieces move diagonal? Bishops. Do we have a light squared bishop? Yes, we do. We would have played bishop back to d3, and that would have pinned the queen to the king. Remember, pin means a piece can't move because the piece behind it would be captured. And in this situation, we would win the queen because if the queen tried to run away, even if she tried to take the knight, remember, there'd be a king sitting on h7, and our bishop would be aiming at the king, and you can't put your own king in check. So, long story longer, that would have been the correct answer. Now, in this puzzle, because the knight went back, we're going to be a little bit boring and just win the pinned knight. Now, if we take with the bishop, that's going to allow black to take advantage of his or her pin with the queen taking the knight, and then our king's going to be in trouble. So, I propose that we take with the queen, winning a free knight. Yes, the queens will trade, but that will also save our knight. Okay, so queen takes, queen takes, bishop takes. Both sides lost a queen, but white got a bonus knight, and woo, I think they're going to go a little faster for our pin sanity, but we have to go a little slower at the beginning because we have to learn the concepts. Okay, let's click the next button, and here we go. We are black. And remember, there may not be a pin on move one. You may have to create the pin on move one in order to take advantage of it on move two. And in fact, the computer is again starting us off with massive challenges because this is a bit of a trick. Boys and girls, in this position, I actually don't see anything that we are pinning for black to white. Now, if we could somehow make white castle, white's king would end up on this square, then the king and the queen would be on the same diagonal. You know what to do. We'd put our bishop on g5 and we would pin the queen. Now, to be honest, we actually wouldn't even win the queen because white could block with one of his pieces on one of these squares. So that's not the right answer because there's no way to get white to castle. It's very rare in chess. You could actually make your opponent castle. In fact, maybe I've never seen a position where your opponent literally has to castle. Okay, instead, this puzzle is asking us to unpin a piece. This pawn over here for black, it kind of looks pinned because if it moves, especially if it captures, then it looks like our rook will be captured behind it. Remember, pin means a piece. If it moves, the piece behind it would be in danger. That piece doesn't have to be a king. Sometimes it could be a rook. But you'll also notice in this position that our bishop actually guards the rook. So this pawn isn't really pinned, even though our eyeballs look like it's pinned. What's a word for that? I don't know. We have a word for chess called quasi-pin. Maybe fake pin is a better way of putting it, okay? Pseudo-pin, I think the grandmasters call it. But words with a silent P are tough. Let's go with fake pin. So in this puzzle, I think what we're supposed to do is capture the pawn, okay? Now we're aiming at white's rook. So if white takes our pawn, we will very happily capture that white rook. So once again, I think white will take our rook, okay? And then before we take back with our bishop, we can actually take this bishop first, which is check, which wins us a bonus bishop because when white takes the time to get out of check, then we'll capture the rook on the next move. By the way, the act of capturing the bishop before taking the rook back, that's called in-between move. And you might be like, but Fun Master Mike, this is a video on pin. And I would say to you, yeah, but part of pin sanity is recognizing that sometimes we have to combine tactics in chess. So that's hope we're right. Pawn takes pawn. The rook did take, and now we're going to play our in-between move. If you're Italian, intermezzo. If you are German, Zwischenzug. And Fun Master Mike, you're not pronouncing German the good way. And again, my accents are terrible. So all my German friends, please teach me better because I need some help. We're going to capture this with check. White takes back with whatever. And now, you might be thinking, Fun Master Mike, now we can create this pin. Bishop to h4, pins the queen to the king. The bishop at h4 would have the support of the queen. But rooks go backward. If we play bishop h4 in this position, there would be a rook and a queen aiming at us. That's two attackers. We'd only have one defender. So am I glad that you looked for a better move before capturing the rook? Yeah, I'm glad you did. It just so happens, though, there's not a better move, but kind of cool if you saw bishop h4 was a pin. We're just going to take the rook, and I think we ended up with a bonus bishop. Okay, we're going to move on. Hopefully the computer will give us some simpler ones here because that was a kind of a tough way to start. Okay, we are black in this position. We have got to figure out some sort of pin, and I don't know. Again, very, very tough puzzle. I would wish that there was just a little one mover. By the way, if you watch my video on ChessKid on pins, we do start a little bit more simply. So you didn't know it going in, and I didn't know it going in because the computer's picking the puzzles, but this has suddenly become kind of an intermediate to advanced video. But if you're following along, great. That's part of pin sanity. Okay, I don't actually see a white piece that's being pinned. However, I'm going to go back to basics. Remember we said to look for checks and captures every turn? I'm wondering if we give check with our bishop, then we hope that white puts something in the way, and whatever white puts in the way would be a pin. But I'm also sensing that white has some other move. But you know what? If white puts this bishop here, we could actually take that bishop, and our queen would have X-ray defense of our own bishop. It's pretty weird. Okay, now if we play bishop check and the rook comes in the way, the rook is immediately pinned, and actually we could just take that rook. So I'm actually thinking we play bishop check, and if the king moves, now this knight is pinned. I don't see a way to take advantage of that, but I think we could just play knight to g3 check, and that would actually aim at the king and the rook, and that looks really bad for white. So if I'm being completely honest, I think our computer threw us a curveball here. I don't see a lot of pins that are terribly important for this puzzle, but I do see a check that looks really good. The king did move. Now the knight's pinned, and if I had a way to put more pressure on the knight, we'll probably get to that in a later video, or in a later example, I should say, in this video. But I don't see a way to really attack the knight in a good way. So I think we're just going to simply play knight check, and the queen had to capture. It was actually white's only legal chess move, and now we're simply going to take, and we want a queen for a knight, and we're super happy, and we're hoping the computer gives us a more simple answer. Okay, this is actually a more traditional pin puzzle, so that's kind of good. There is not a pin on move 1, but I'm going to give you a little hint, and then after I give you my hint, I'm going to go a little bit quiet. How quiet? Maybe This quiet? No, I'm actually just going to go silent, and I'm going to give you a chance to solve it. Okay, so here's your hint. There are 2 black pieces on this long diagonal, a king and a bishop. And the correct answer here has something to do with that diagonal, but it's going to be more than one move. Okay, here we go. Fun Master Mike going silent. All right, I'm back. That's as long as I can stay quiet. They literally pay me to talk, and so I've got to get back there and earning some candy money. I've got to start talking again. In this position, if you try to just play bishop to c4, well, you could make the argument that you are pinning this bishop to the king, because if the bishop tried to slide along this diagonal, for example, well, then the black king would be in check. However, you have already realized by now in my long sentence, hey, Fun Master Mike, bishop c4, won't he just take the bishop? Yes, black will take your bishop, and you will just lose a bishop. So, by the way, he might also just take your rook. So in this position, we are going to use the power of the bishop over the rook. Remember, I told you that the pin has something to do with the diagonal. Bishops move diagonal, rooks don't. So this is one of the rare times in chess where the diagonal movement power is more important than the power to go up, down, left, and right. With all that being said, the correct answer is to sacrifice the rook for the bishop. So we lost 5 points, we got 3 back, we only lost 2, and now in this position, we're going to slide our bishop back, and we have officially pinned the rook to the king. Now the computer didn't exactly play nice, because the king moved sideways. Can I make the king go back? I can. Ooh, I use my left-right arrows. Okay, let's pretend, because this is a learning channel. Ooh, wait, the word learning doesn't sound fun. This is the fun channel. In this position, let's pretend that black's rook had slid over to defend. That actually would have been black's best move. And if the rook moves, if you simply take, and then black takes back, it turns out both sides lost a rook and a bishop, and it would be just a giant trade. So, if this rook had moved over, let's introduce a new concept. It's called put pressure on the pinned piece. PP on the PP. This piece would be pinned. It can't move, so there's no reason we have to capture it right away. Instead, let's aim at it a second time. Do you see a way? If black's rook had moved to d8 to defend, how could we have attacked the black rook on d5 a second time? Well, by now you've probably found out it's going to be the knight. The knight cannot use that square because of the pawn. However, the knight could use this square, and then there'd be 2 attackers on the rook. Remember, black's rook would be here. That's only 1 defender. Whoops, I didn't get my arrow long enough. There we go. Completed the line. And now, when we capture the rook on the next turn, we basically would win the rook for free. And what's better, winning a rook for a bishop or winning it for free? Yeah, it's winning it for free. Free is always better. That's why when businessmen go to conventions, they always come home with stuff they don't even need. Free pens, free books, free frisbees, free thingamadoogles that we don't even know what they do. Knight to f4 would win the rook for free. So put pressure on the pinned piece. Okay, let's go back. The computer quite sillily, is that a word? Sillily, we're making it up. The king moves to h8. Now we just get to capture for free. We are moving on with our pins puzzles. Okay. This is kind of a pin. I would almost argue that this is also kind of like a double attack. And by the way, remember earlier in our video, I said vanilla is the world's most popular ice cream? By the way, I did no research on that, okay? The Worldwide Ice Cream Council, if such a thing exists, was not consulted. But if there was a second place for most popular tactic, it would probably be fork or double attack, whatever you want to call it. And I think in this puzzle, it might have something to do with fork or double attack. In this position, you see there is a whole boatload of black pieces on the d file. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to put our queen on the d file. Of course, we're going to check the king in the process. And then once we do that, the bishop would be pinned to the queen. Because in this position, if we play queen check, for example, or queen check here, either one, when the king gets out of check, this bishop would be pinned. If it moves, our queen would capture. Now, there's actually a few other things going on in this puzzle. First of all, if we do one of these 2 checks and the king moves, we could simply take the bishop because we'd have a double attack. I believe one of the things the computer wanted to show us is that our own bishop is pinned. We've got pins going on both sides of the board. If our bishop were to try to capture, that would be against the rules. We'd be putting our own king in check. And in fact, Black has done a great job in this position, putting pressure on the pinned piece. You can actually see Black's last move. If you look at the board really carefully, there is one dark square that is ever so slightly lighter than the other dark squares, and that actually tells us what the last move was. So you didn't need to know this to answer the puzzle, but we're doing a little bit of, chess detective work. This square C5, can you notice it? Let me turn the red off. Do you see how it's a little bit lighter? That means Black's last move was bishop to d4. Black was literally putting pressure on the pinned piece. Black was doing everything that she was supposed to, except guarding her own king. And in this position, I think Black's king is a little bit too weak. Okay, now, we have a lot of introduction. It's time to get down to actual chess moves. Because the game of chess is not played by people who are pontificating about the meaning of chess. You actually have to make real moves. I know, shocking. So in this position, I think it's going to be one of these two moves. But a little secret about the ChessKid puzzle section, there can never be two correct answers. There always must be one that's a little bit better. For example, if you have a way to win a queen or give checkmate, the computer will only accept the checkmate. I know both of those moves are really good, but you've got to play the numero uno best move, okay? And I'm here to tell you that I think queen here is better. And the reason is, Black has two moves. We're actually going to amazingly ignore the bishop. And we're going to checkmate no matter which way the king goes. Don't believe me? Then why are you watching my channel? Just kidding. I'm sure you do believe me. Let's take a look at this move. And no matter which way the king goes, I will show you a checkmate on the next turn. Which way is he going? He's going that way, by the way. If he had gone this way, then our queen would have just sat right on top of him for a very traditional queen and helper mate. The queen would have the lovely protection of the knight. Yes, a knight in the corner of the board is actually doing something. The knight would defend the queen. That'd be a checkmate. Here, we have a little bit of a less traditional checkmate. I don't even know if it has a name, but notice in this position, the king can't move anywhere. The queen's aiming at all those squares and all those squares, and the king can't go to that square because you can't eat your own pawn. All we need is a piece that can check the king. Obviously, it's not the bishop. Not only is the bishop pinned, it's on the wrong color square, it's the knight. The knight comes out of the corner, shocking everybody, except for probably you, dear viewer, because you've already figured it out. Knight c7 is checkmate, chess kids, and now we are moving on with our insanity. All right, what are we doing on this one? You know what? This looks like a carbon copy of an earlier puzzle. Remember, like our second puzzle, I think it was? Don't hit the rewind button, just trust me. In this position, this pawn was pinned in the second puzzle, but it was fake pinned. It was pseudo pinned. And so in this position, what we're going to do is we're going to use more silent P words and act like a pterodactyl. No, just kidding. I went off on a crazy dinosaur story there. What we're going to do is we're going to recognize that sometimes pinned pieces can move. Okay, we haven't talked about this yet, but when a piece is pinned to the king, we call it an absolute pin because you absolutely can't move it. It's against the rules. But here, the pawn is pinned to the rook. Yeah. Are you allowed to give away your own rook in chess? Why, yes. Yes, you are. And this is one of those positions where we're going to give away our rook because if our rook gets captured, we're going to win the queen instead, okay? We're going to go back to our old friend double attack. Remember, that's like the chocolate ice cream of chess. The number 2 tactic. We're going to play pawn takes because as you can see, we're forking the queen and the rook of white. And if our own rook is captured, we will get a queen. Now, it turns out the story is not completely told because white can then take our knight on g8. What? I'm not sure if the computer is going to go that far, but, well, let's just see if we end up getting that far in the puzzle. Let's take this first move. Now, the rook did take. Okay, we are going to take the queen. The rook did take, and now we actually have a really interesting choice. If we move our king, which seems to be the correct move because we're not giving away our queen, we would lose our rook. And then we'd have a queen versus 2 rooks. Oh, but wait a minute. I literally just noticed this as I was doing my sentence. The bishop defends the rook. What I was going to say is, it's not so clear in chess what's better, giving away a rook for nothing or giving away a queen for a rook. However, silly me, this bishop was hiding the entire time, hiding in plain sight. We're actually not giving away our rook. We're just trading rooks because our bishop defends. So here, it would be massively silly to give away our queen if we don't have to. Let's move our king to d7, and our rook got captured, and our bishop takes. And if you look at the resulting chessboard, we have a queen, white has a rook. Queens are better than rooks. For other amazing information that I'm sure you already knew, tune in with me next week. Okay, let's go into our next puzzle though. Again, pins are the name of the day. And is there anything pinned here for white? Don't really see anything pinned. Now our rook could move back to d5. And look, the pawn would be pinned to the king. Yeah, but that doesn't actually do much. Although it's a pawn pin, I don't even see a way to realistically attack that pawn on the next turn. So if I play rook to d5, the computer is going to say, you didn't say the magic word. You didn't say the magic word. Well, I was actually calling back to another dinosaur movie. Instead, the computer's going to say, you made the wrong move. So sorry, Fun Master. Make a different move. What we're going to do is look for something else we could pin. And you know what? I think I see two white pieces that are on the same line. Do you see these two rooks? Yeah, I thought the rooks were supposed to be friends. But here, they're not really working together. They're on a light square diagonal. We have a light squared bishop. If you put 2 and 2 together, I hope you don't get 5. I hope what you get is bishop to f5. Bishop to f5 is a pin of the two rooks. Now white is trading rooks with check, but that doesn't actually save the material because we'll just take the rook. Now we have one rook. White got a rook. We get a second rook. Wait, let's just pause. Remember what Fun Master Mike taught you. If you see a good move, look for a better one. What could be better than winning a rook in this position? This move. Well, maybe. This move is really, really close to checkmate. But I'm going to hover the bishop here. Chess kids, do you see a way for white to get out of check? Yeah, you probably do. The white king can travel down to b6. I cannot draw you an arrow, but my producer will. Boom! There's an arrow. When the king goes down to b6, he is safe, and there's no way to really continue checking him and forcing a mate. You actually could play rook to a6. Producer, draw another arrow. Boom! But then the white king would capture on b7, and we're not actually getting to a mate. So we did look for a better move. One did not exist, so we're going to go back to our original plan because we never actually let go of the bishop, and we're going to capture the rook, and the computer's going to say, thank you, Fun Master. You did well, young Padawan. You get to move on to another puzzle. Wait a minute. Maybe I'm not a Padawan, I'm a Pinawan. Yeah, okay, we're making up crazy terms today. All right, we are black, and before I'm even talking about pins, I'm talking about the fact that the knight is threatening this queen in this position. So I'm actually not sure. I think this is the computer being a little bit silly. I think the computer is like, hey, Fun Master, let me see if you're not paying attention. Let me give you a double attack puzzle instead of a pin puzzle. In this position, I'm just going to give this one to you because I don't see any pins. What I do see is a move queen check. King's in danger. You see that? And the knight. Oh, okay. Sorry, computer. I have to give you my apologies because now I realize why this is actually a pin puzzle. We're going to play queen check. Okay, I'm actually going to draw some arrows here. Queen check. Now, as you can probably see, the king is in danger and so is the knight. However, the knight could drop back to c3 to defend himself and to defend the king. That's actually white's best try. However, then the white knight would be pinned because our queen would be lined up with the knight and the king. And what do we do to pinned pieces? We put pressure on them. So if you can see through all my arrows, actually, I'm gonna take away one arrow. I'm just gonna draw these two arrows. Queen check, knight blocks. What could black do in that position? To put pressure on the pinned piece. Well, you could technically play knight to e4. There's two problems with this move. Number one, your knight's going to get captured. And number two, we haven't talked about this yet, but in general, when you are putting pressure on the pinned piece, you should attack it with the least valuable piece possible because you're probably going to end up capturing with that small value piece. And you don't want to give away a knight for a knight. You want to give away a pawn for a knight. So the correct answer is pawn to d4. If you saw all of that, give yourself a pat on the back. So queen check, I assume the computer's knight will block, and then we get to finish it off. Pawn to d4. By the way, our pawn is defended several times. So white actually has a choice here. It's not a good choice, but white has to decide which knight to lose. White could take on d5 with the f3 knight, Or white could just kind of sit there and let me take this knight on c3. So it doesn't really matter. Well, okay, the computer's going to play one more move. Pawn up to a3. Now, if we move our queen to a lazy square, when I say lazy, I mean we're not even thinking. We just play queen back or something. Then the knight's not pinned anymore. So we have to take a little time out here. Move our queen, but keep the queen on this diagonal. Of course, don't take the knight. The pawn on b2 will take our queen. Instead, we're just going to drop back. We're going to show a little bit of patience. And now the knight was still pinned, by the way. Now white just made a random move to defend. But now we're going to take with the pawn, and we have won a knight. We might lose our pawn, but still, we end up with more points than we lost. Okay, let's keep the fun going. Now, white just captured something. I'm going to hit the back button. What did white capture? White captured a pawn. White is challenging us to recognize this pawn as pinned. So if you're the kind of kid who's a little bit like me, and as soon as that move happened, you were starting to jump to your screen and say, Fun Master Mike, take the bishop. Well, that would be the mistake. Okay, I did it mentally too. Okay, I thought, hey, this is an easy puzzle. We just take a free bishop. But did you see that the black pawn is pinned? We're going to lose our queen if we do that move. So chess kids, when you see a move in chess that looks too good to be true, or if it looks like your opponent has just made a big blunder, take that extra second, ask yourself, why? Was it really a poor move? Sometimes it is, right? Our opponents are human beings. Well, most of the time. Sometimes you play the ChessKid bots, and by the way, they make mistakes too. But no matter who you play, mistakes do happen. So sometimes your opponent will give you free stuff, okay? Please don't think that your opponent will never make mistakes. But here our opponent is actually being very clever because again, if we take, we lose our queen. So we just need to recognize that. We need to play some other chess move. Okay, now we could defend the pawn. If you see here, white's actually aiming at it twice and we're only guarding it once. So I was thinking it could be something like rook over to d8 to defend the pawn. But you might also notice that our knight is in danger. So we actually have multiple problems in this position. And to be honest with you, I don't know exactly how to solve all of them, but I'm actually just going to give you the answer to this one because this one's very tough, okay? This puzzle, we're going to move our queen somewhere. And when we move our queen, we get out of the pin. So if our queen leaves the 5th rank, then the bishop will actually be in danger. So I want to move my queen somewhere and make a really, really big threat. Queen h3, that's the way to go. When our queen goes to h3, we are threatening queen to g2 checkmate because our knight would defend queen. And by the way, if we play queen h3 and the pawn takes, you might have thought, hey, that pawn's pinned, we win the queen. No, because the queen's defended. If we play queen h3 and the pawn takes, that opens up the g file. It turns out you could argue that this pawn is pinned because if our queen moves and the pawn takes, that opens up the rook, and then queen g2 is still checkmate because the rook defends the queen because that pawn on g3 is no longer there. That's tough to see all that, but I wanted to draw some arrows to help you. So in this position, if we play queen back, I don't even really see a way for white to defend the checkmate, but even if white could, then we can still take this bishop on the next turn. And by the way, if we play queen h3 and white tries a hero move, bishop f1, saving the bishop and also guarding the mate, we can actually then just take the bishop with the queen, and that would be a back rank mate. So I just don't see how white solves all of the problems here. Queen h3, I'm very curious what the computer does. The computer has played kind of a random move, okay? I guess that kind of pins our knight. It's kind of funny how these pins keep coming up. I told you it was the vanilla of tactics, right? It's the most popular. But now we'll just play our checkmate in this position. Who cares if our knight's pinned? We're just going to move our queen again. And our queen has slithered in those light squares like a snake. And the king is checkmated. Let's do a few more. Okay, we're moving on to this puzzle. And the first thing I notice is that our queen is lined up with the knight and the king. So the knight is pinned in this position. And you know what? We already have pressure on the pinned piece. However, this is not going to be quite that easy because if we try to win the knight, if we play rook takes, then I believe white's rook can take. And the white rook on d2 would be defended by the white rook on a2 because the white rook on a2 goes through the queen to defend, X-ray defense. In fact, we have a funny name for this in ChessKid. We call this the reverse Oreo because when our rook takes and the white rook takes. We've got 2 white rooks on the outside. We've got the black piece in the middle. That would be like an Oreo with cream on the outside and the cookie in the middle. That'd be a pretty messy Oreo to eat. It turns out, in this puzzle, it's a combination of pin and also remove the guard. There's a tactic we haven't talked about today. The knight and the rook are both guarding the queen. But notice, if we play rook takes knight, check, we've removed one of the defenders of the queen because that knight's not there anymore. And then if the rook takes, which is the only way for white to not lose points right away, then the rook would also be removed from the defense of the queen. What? So we will give away a rook for a knight, and we'll end up just taking a free queen on the second move. So I think we have found our correct answer. Rook takes, and now we don't want the reverse Oreo. We want the free queen, which is the best dessert. By the way, what is the best dessert? Thank you for asking. It's tiramisu. If you don't know what tiramisu is, let's put a big picture of tiramisu on the screen. Boom! Fun Master Mike's hungry. And, well, I can only do 2 more puzzles because I've got to go find a way to get some tiramisu in my belly. All right, we're moving on to the next one. And we have just given check. No, wait a minute. We are actually white in this puzzle. It took me a moment to figure that out. But remember, in my videos, we're always the color on bottom, and white starts on 1 and 2. So now that I've got my head screwed on straight, we can do this puzzle. We are in check in this first position. And I don't know what to do about that. We've got only, 3 or 4 legal moves. Now, if our king moves forward, I think the rook would actually take the bishop. We would lose a bishop, and our pawn could not get a promotion because our pawn would be, what's the word? Pinned. Yeah, our pawn would be pinned to our king. Now, maybe we could, I don't know, move our king again and try to make a promotion, but I don't know. It feels like there's some other correct answer in this position. We could move our rook up.
Hello.
That's totally possible. That looks like a better move. But you know what? Then if the rook captured, maybe the knight could go back and take the place of the rook and guard the promotion square. Something like that. I actually feel like the correct answer is going to be to block with the bishop. Now, I believe the computer is challenging us here. The computer is saying, hey, ChessKid, do not be afraid of all pins. If we play bishop to b6, we technically pinned our own bishop. You don't generally want to do that in a chess game. However, our bishop is very, very well defended. If we play bishop back, our bishop's guarded once, twice, 3 times. And if our bishop goes back, we simply don't allow it to get captured on the next move. Now, I do see a way that black could actually stop the promotion. If we play bishop back to b6, black could play this amazing move, bishop to c8, which pins our pawn to our king. Now, I know black might lose the bishop, but at least black would avoid the promotion. However, I think we're still winning material. If we play bishop back, and this bishop goes here, we can take that bishop with a promotion to a queen.
Hello.
I'm almost positive the rook would take our queen, but then our bishop would amazingly not be pinned anymore, and we could take the knight. That's really tough, and I'm kind of mad at the computer for making these puzzles so difficult, but hey, your brain's getting bigger today. The computer is obviously thinking that we needed a challenge here for pin sanity. So, I'm not 100% sure this is right. I'm going to be completely honest with you, because this move actually looks pretty good too. Let's take a little pause here. Is it possible that that move is actually better? Okay, let's play this move. Let me see if I'm right. Okay, I was right. I'm not 100% sure I know why I was right, but I think I explained it reasonably well. Now we're in check. I don't think you want to put the rook in the way and pin the rook, okay? This is a good example of not wanting to pin yourself. So we only have one other move, which is to move the king. And the computer's given up because I believe our pawn is going downtown and becoming a queen. All right, we're going to do one more. Let's see if the computer gives us a traditional puzzle. Yes, actually, wow. The computer is playing nice because for our final puzzle, we get to make a relatively normal pin. In this position, do you see the bishop and the queen lined up? Of course you do. I just highlighted them. Where is your attention right now? Are you thinking about your next YouTube video? Please don't, unless it's a ChessKid YouTube video, in which case, please hold that thought. What we're going to do here is we're going to capture this knight with something to pin the bishop to the queen. Now, if we capture this knight, that doesn't make any sense because our bishop does not move up and down. The bishop on d2 would not be pinned at all. We capture with our queen, it's not really pinned either. It's one of those fake pseudo pins because the bishop can actually just move just fine. And if we take the queen, white would just take back. It would just be a trade. We cannot count that as a pin because the bishop would totally be able to move. It's clearly going to be the rook. When the rook takes, now the bishop on d2 is totally pinned because if it moves, white will lose the queen. Not only that, we already have put pressure on the pinned piece because we have 2 black pieces on the d file. I'm very curious what white does after this move. White has slid the queen over. However, I kind of wish the computer had played a slightly better move. Let's go back. Your final question, which is not one the computer is asking us, but I'm asking you because it's pin sanity time. What would you have done if the rook had traveled to c2 to defend the bishop? Remember what I've taught you. When a piece is pinned, it can't move. You don't need to be in a hurry to win it. You want to put pressure on the pinned piece. Well, you might be thinking, Fun Master Mike, this bishop's on a dark square, so we'll use our own bishop. Well, I don't actually see a way to do that. Your bishop can't exactly go to c3 safely, just get captured by the pawn. You might think, oh, Fun Master Mike, I learned about this idea, either on the ChessKid website or on YouTube. It's called Alekine's gun. That's when I put my queen and both rooks on the same file. I love the idea. If you play rook c2, then the black queen could travel up the board with the idea of sliding this rook over and making a triple battery on the bishop. The only problem is queen d7 is a little slow, and white has just enough time to move the queen sideways, defend the bishop, and get out of the pin and just move the bishop on the next turn. So, we actually have to do something a little bit different. We have to remove one of the guards. If this rook moves to c2, we're going to use our light squared bishop. Who would have thought our light squared bishop would assist in a pin on the enemy dark squared bishop? Well, hopefully you did, because that's how we're going to get this one right. If the rook goes to c2, now we play bishop to f5, and now white has a true problem. The rook is in danger, and if the rook moves anywhere, then there will not be enough defenders of this bishop, so white will officially lose some amount of material. Okay, instead, our computer has played queen over, and that allows us to just simply take, and the computer has given up, and pin sanity is finally over. Remember our big concepts. When you have 2 pieces on the same line, that's called a pin. Not all pieces are pinned forever. In fact, there are some times where a piece is pinned, but it's not to a king, and you can actually move that piece. It's not often, but it does happen. We're going to call that fake pin because the word pseudo is kind of a tough one. And the last thing, when a piece is pinned, if you can't win it for free, then try to put pressure on the pinned piece. We call that PP on the PP, and hopefully you'll be able to remember that. Maybe next time we will do some chocolate ice cream instead of vanilla. But until then, I'm going to find some tiramisu.